Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative. Prophetic and practical.
Intellectual stew.
Informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectual stew with James.
All right, what's up? What it do? Time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, James Kirkland. And I am super excited tonight because we are starting up a new edition of Tuesday F.L.O.W. Tuesday F.L.O.W. Y'all know I do my Monday night live show where we talk about relationships. Let me turn this music down some so y'all can hear me. But yeah, y'all know Monday nights I do my little live show with my panel and we talk about relationships and all those types of things. But to satisfy my Jones, my spiritual Jones, I wanted to do something that's a little bit outside of the secular arena and go a little bit more towards Christendom, a little bit more towards community, things of that nature. So we started Tuesday F.L.O.W. Tuesday F.L.O.W. F.L.O.W. is an acronym for those of the faith community, those of the leadership community, those of organizations, and those that are witnesses, those that are going to come on and tell their story. And I have a young man on tonight that fits two of those categories. He is the head of an organization, and he also is going to be a witness. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring him to the stage. Come on in here. How you doing, Mr. Greg Hill?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are all good, sir. I'm all great on this side, man. I can't complain. Even if I did, nobody's gonna listen anyway. So why am I complaining? So
I'll listen. I ain't gonna lie. If you complain, you got about a 60-second window, and I'll let you complain. I promise you. But on 61, though, we're gonna change the conversation. I'm gonna be honest with you.
No point me complaining. No point.
All right, that's good, man. So listen, Stew Nation. We have Mr. Greg Hill with us. Greg Hill is the CEO of Our Children Have Rights, and his website is ourchildrenhaverights.org. And I am excited because, listen, I've been toying with this idea, Greg, of starting this Tuesday F.L.O.W. show. And the week I really was going to kick it off, I got news that morning that my mother passed away. So that kind of put a damper in me getting kickstarted again to want to do it, So when Theodore hooked us up and you and I had our conversation, man, it was like we had kindred spirits. And it wasn't long after our conversation that I invited you to come on the show. And because I don't know what he saw, because I mean we didn't have we kind of didn't really have similar testimonies, but we have similar passions, I guess. So he said, man, you need to talk to him. He needs to get his story out because so many people need to hear his story. So let's talk about your story a little bit. You said where are you from?
So I'm originally from Florida, right?
Okay.
Grew up down here in Florida. If you got close to me, I probably would smell like an orange. So I'm Florida through and through, right? And to get into the actual story of Our Children Have Rights, let's jump into it, brother. We don't have a lot of time, and we're gonna have to educate these parents and these men. So let's get right into it. We'll go right into the story.
Well, do me a favor before you tell your story. Encourage the listeners to share and tell them why they would want to share this.
Let me go ahead and encourage you, like the brother said. You want to share this because this education can really catapult our people into a different stratosphere right now with this education and these teachings that we are about to get into. So you want to share this information, especially as a man and as a father. You want to share this information because a lot of this information can protect and help save your children. So you want to share this information. You want to hear this information, and you want to know and learn this information. And don't believe what I say. All right. Go and research this information for yourself. I'm just a messenger. Still continue to do your research, continue to go get your lesson, go continue to learn and get all the information that you can on this, what we're about to talk to you about. So you want to have this and you want to learn this, and then you want to extrapolate on the things that we talk about tonight. You don't want to just leave here with what we talk about. You want to take this and again go and read and learn some more. Don't just be satisfied with what we give you. Go and continue to feed your soul, feed yourself, feed your mind on this information.
Good. Okay, good. Now let's get into your story. Talk to us.
All right. So my story, our children have rights, right? So our children have rights. The mission is to protect children's rights to have access to both parents equally
Okay.
by providing co-parenting resources. Right. And so how does that look? Let's get into the story now. So originally, my son was conceived in the state of New Jersey. I was in New Jersey working. And mom and I had great jobs. We were both, pretty doing pretty well. She owned the home, I owned the home, and we were doing pretty well. Well, mom decided that I couldn't support my son. And so mom moved to Florida in the attempt to cut off access. And so I then moved to Florida behind her in an attempt to protect my son's access to have the rights to me.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So you said you were in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
You had your own home.
Mm-hmm.
You had a very good job making good money.
IT security job, yes.
Okay, IT security.
Mm-hmm.
And because your baby's mother
Mm-hmm.
moved to Florida, you
Mm-hmm.
quit your job, moved out of your home.
I didn't say
Did
quit.
you have a job? Okay.
I didn't
Okay.
say quit.
Talk to.
I
Okay.
just
Talk to me.
relocated to Florida because in the IT field, I can still
Okay.
do my job remotely, so I can work from anywhere.
Okay. Good. Okay. Gotcha.
And so since you moved here and had our child here and the access was not available, then I moved down to Florida to protect my son's right to have that access to me.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
we'll get into that mindset later. Because
Okay, good.
a lot of parents want to say, hey, this is what that other parent is doing to me. This is what they are doing. This is how it's happening to me. And my philosophy is it has nothing to do with you. It is that child's right to have that access to you.
Gotcha.
Because you are already who are becoming who you're going to be. So you don't have to change anything. But that child needs that information from you to be who they're going to be.
Gotcha. Okay, go ahead.
So I wanted to come down and protect my son's right to have that access to me. Got here. I didn't understand anything about the process, anything about how the courts work, any of the information. And so for me, the first thing that we do in our community, right, is we say, hey, go hire a lawyer. Right. Mm-hmm. But now and I learned, if you are uneducated on that process, you can't hold them accountable because we don't know. Right. So now I get a lawyer. I go into mediation with the lawyer to, go and fight for my son. Go into mediation. And here's how my mediation went. I went into mediation, sat down in the room, and the mediator came into the room. The mediator said, listen, Mr. Hill, you make decent money. Your wife, your ex makes good money. You both are college educated. You both have, decent paying jobs. This is what you made last year. This is what you owe. She needs a payment. That was my mediation. And so now I turn to the lawyer. And I go to the lawyer and I'm like, hey, what's going on here? We're here to, make sure that we advocate and fight for the child and make sure So my lawyer then looks over the documentation. Now she goes back to the mediator and she tells the mediator, everything you just said is the same thing that I told him. That was the end of my mediation. Pretty much. And, the real ending of it was, the mediator said to me, now that I'm upset now that I'm in my fight or flight mode, the mediator says, I don't understand what's going on with these black men. They don't want to take care of these babies. All they want to do is make these babies and not take care of them. I don't understand. You know, I don't know what your problem is. I don't understand why. You know, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. We don't have to do all of these things. And then I signed the documentation, not understanding what I'm signing away.
Wow.
Right. So
Wow.
now I go home and I sit in this office where I am right now for about 3 months, drinking a bottle of liquor a day
Wow.
in that depressive state, in that
Mm.
depression mindset. Then the light bulb goes off. Well, hey, if I'm going to fight this thing, I'm going to fight it my way. Right.
Yes, sir.
So now I begin to read. I fire the lawyer, get rid of all representation. Now I begin to read, research, understand all of the documentation that the state of Florida is now providing.
Okay.
So now I have, the actual documentation from the mediation, and I have the documentation that I'm reading from the state of Florida, how custody works, how child support works, how, arrangements work, how everything works. And I'm seeing all the ambiguity and all the things that should have been addressed in mediation in my paperwork. But now that I'm reading these things and reading how they actually work in the state of Florida, I'm saying, wait a minute, this is all wrong. All of this is wrong. So now I go back to the courts to address what was wrong. I go into the courtroom, and long story short, um, I came out of court. Originally I was deemed to pay $1,141 a month for a son that had no access to me.
Wow.
So I went into the courtroom and talked about all the documentation. She had in the documentation that she was paying $1,200 a month for child care. I said, well, Judge, I am the father. I should have the documentation on the child care. Where's our son going to school? Where's he going to child care? So the judge says, just ask her, hey, where's the documentation for the child care? She says, well, he has a nanny. He's not going to daycare. The judge says, well, does the nanny have an EIN number? She says, no. Well, judge says, well, what's going on with this child, and where's this child going? Is the child in VPK already? Like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
She says, no. So the judge says, well, what's happening here? Why are you paying $1,200 for child care for the child to go to daycare? She says the child has an in-home nanny.
Wow.
Right? And so we're okay. What's the nanny's information? She says, oh, the nanny is my grandmother. It's his grandmother. It's my mom.
Oh my. Wow.
Judge says, no, you can't count that.
Wow.
You can't count that. So the judge then says, well, is there anything else that you want to bring up, Mr. Hill? I says, well, I have insurance on the baby now. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So the judge said, well, what's the problem? So she says, well, no, he's not supposed to carry the baby on insurance based on our documentation. So the judge says, okay, I tell you what you do, Mr. Hill. Take that baby off your insurance. And then he proceeds to ask her, what are you paying monthly for the insurance on this baby? She says, I don't have the information in front of me right now to show the breakdown on the insurance. The judge says, no, you can't count that in the calculator.
Wow.
In the calculation.
Wow.
So now she was talking about she was paying $800 a month in insurance and $1,200 a month in child care. Judge says, no, you can't count that.
Wow.
So now I go to the judge. I said, well, Judge, I don't understand why this child has no access to me. There's no detriment that has been caused to the baby. I've never beat the child. I've never, done anything to cause anything wrong with this child.
Mm-hmm.
The judge says, okay, Mr. Hill, I'll go ahead and write this up, and I'll get this documentation to you, and we'll go ahead and mail this out. And when I got that paperwork in the mail, I went from 0 overnights to 144 overnights.
What?
Insurance was a 0 on both sides. Judge told her, you can't add the insurance to the calculator. Only thing you can do is take it off the bottom line of what you make every month. So insurance is not going to be accounted for either side. And that actual payment that you were talking about, you make $1,200 a month in childcare, you can't count that. So my
Wow.
payments went from $1,141 a month down to $124.
Wow.
And now my son has 50 access to me.
That's good. That's good.
And so
That's
now,
good.
with that information, I then begin to say, well, hey, I understand a lot of people can use this process and use what to look for and use what that is actually needed
Mm-hmm.
to make sure you protect these children's rights to have access to you. And I'm really speaking to men on this, but it speaks to women too, because now you can hold men accountable for it. But now,
Gotcha.
it's the information that is actually needed to protect that child's right to have access to you. So I
Gotcha.
asked myself a question. If I had to do that process all over again, what would I tell me to do?
Okay, that's a good question.
And with that, I wrote a book about it.
Okay.
Started writing down all the information that I would advise myself to do. And so really I wrote a book about me talking to me.
Okay. Okay.
And with that book, I've been able to help a lot of parents and a lot of men especially understand the process of what it is that you need to do to protect that child's right to have access to you. And I've really
Gotcha.
broken it down to 3 things originally, and then you have some subsection of those things depending on your case. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
get so the 3 things that I've broken it down to, right? The distance from the child, insurance, and the number of overnights.
Distance, insurance.
Distance, insurance, and the number of overnights. You want to
Okay.
write this down, parents and fellas. Write this down. The distance, right? So in every state, there is a cookie cutter plan for the actual overnights for these children. So if you live in the state of Florida, if you live outside of 45 miles, then they automatically want to put you in a long distance plan.
Okay.
So inside 45 miles, you can fight for 50-50.
Okay.
But outside of those 45 miles, you are automatically considered for the long distance plan, which is where a lot of parents, especially dads, get caught in the every other weekend plan.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you have to understand the laws and the breakdown of your state,
Okay.
right? So that is one of the things, right? That distance. And then these are direct correlations to child support. If you have the direct correlation to child support, if you have more overnights, the lower the child support.
Really?
Direct correlation to child support. The more overnights you have, the lower the child support you will pay.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so now that is the distance. The second part of the formula, you can look at the calculation. Every state has a calculation. The second part is the insurance. If you have that insurance in your favor on the calculation side, this lowers your child support. Because now you look and perceive to be a father or a parent who is now financially responsible for this child.
Gotcha.
And now that you appear to be financially responsible, it goes in your favor.
Okay. I
And
got you. That
then
makes
those
sense.
two together go into the overnights. So you want to make sure you have the overnights, as many as possible. You want to make sure that you have the distance for the overnights, and then you want to have those insurance factors in your favor. And if you do those things, now you can appear to be an accountable parent.
Okay. That's good stuff. That's good
You
stuff.
understand?
Y'all pay attention to that. He says 3 things that they're
Mhm,
helping to factor is distance. How if you
mhm.
want to be within 45 miles of your
Now,
child.
every state is different, so you have to research and read up on what your state is requiring.
Okay, state of Florida.
State of
If you're
Florida.
inside of 45 miles, dads, mom, you can get 50% custody. If
Yeah.
you're carrying your child on your insurance, it shows financial responsibility. If you
Mhm.
have more overnight visits, that also plays and factors into your child support. Go
So
ahead, keep
now,
going.
so now you just said visits, right? So let's piggyback on that. We are
Okay,
not visitors as parents. You go
absolutely.
and
That's a good
you
word.
go and
Okay, my
visit.
bad.
You go and visit an inmate in jail.
That's true. Good
I
job. That's
don't
good.
visit my children. I'm a parent to my children.
Okay, that's
So
good.
let's
That's
make
good.
sure that we are in the right mindset when we are addressing the courts and we are addressing anybody that's talking about our children as well. We are not visitors. We are parents. So it is parenting time every time that child comes to spend some time with us. So we don't want to use the word visitor, because now you're getting into that slavery mindset. You're getting into that jail mindset, to where they allow you to see somebody. No, I'm not. You're not going to allow me to see my children. What is going to happen is we are going to establish this parenting plan, and then I'm going to make sure that child comes and receives the actual parenting that that child needs. And it's not me that needs the child to come to me. It is that child needs that child to come to me. That child is coming to get those lessons, coming to get that information, right? And so, that is the three-part breakdown that I really focus on in the book. And if you do those things, then we can look at the incremental things that may not be in your favor. Now we can do substantial changes in circumstances, or we can address these other issues. You can use parenting apps to help you co-parent better. But you have to, and I'm going to talk to men right here. You have to be accountable. You have to make sure that you do what is necessary to make sure that you have that accountability. And so now let's piggyback off of that. What does accountability look like? How do you be accountable as a man and as a father? And it comes with education. This is what I do with Our Children Have Rights, or what we do with Our Children Have Rights. We have three pillars: education, mental health, legal aid, and documentation review. But education is a big part of what we do, right? So getting to that education, what we want, these parents and these fathers to know is how to establish paternity first. And you should know these things before a child is born, before your child is born. There's three ways that you want to establish paternity. One is the obvious. If you marry mom or you marry the woman, then it is automatically perceived to be a 50-50 paternity. The second way is a lot of people, a lot of families don't know this. A lot of men especially don't know this, and women, they don't know this, is you can establish paternity at the hospital. So what you can do is sign a documentation called a VDOP or an AOP. VDOP, the acronyms VDOP is called a voluntary declaration of parentage. You can ask for this at the hospital, and if both parents acknowledge that this is your children, this is your child, both of you acknowledge this is your child, paternity is established right there at the hospital. And so now don't get confused with that now. Be educated on why you want to sign that VDOP or AOP. The AOP is also the acknowledgement of paternity, but they call it different things in different states, but it's the same document. But you want to sign this if you are sure that this is your child. Now, if you are unsure, then you may want to do the third part. The third part is going to get the paternity test and then filing for paternity or related relief in the courts. Wow. It may be called something different in your state, but it is still a document that or a motion that you can file to establish paternity, and you can get the blood test and then establish that paternity through the courts.
So looking at this, hold on right quick. You see that? You see what I just put up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that an unwed father has no legal rights to custody,
none,
or a timeshare until a court order has been established.
Not a court order until paternity has been established.
Gotcha. I'm reading the slide right there.
And then you can go to the courts to establish that court order.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, gotcha. But this is correct. Time sharing, you can't have time sharing until the court order has been established. So now let's break that down, right? So let's say, y'all went to the child support agency. Mm-hmm. Child support does not establish custody. The child support agency does not establish custody.
Okay.
What the child support agency does is they make sure that the fiduciary responsibility and that obligation is upheld. So a lot of times what men do, or what parents do, is they will go down to the child support agency and put themselves on child support. But now that just means you're financially responsible for that child. That child has no parenting plan to see you.
Wow. And that's all the state wants to do anyway is
That's
have
all
somebody.
they want to do is
Yeah.
collect that money.
Because that woman, whoever, I don't know, I assume it was a woman. She didn't even factor the fact that you moved all the way from New Jersey to be
No.
close to your child to take care of your
Mhm.
child. But then she wants to put out this narrative that as y'all black men don't want to take care of your children, and you're here. You've
Mhm.
moved. You've literally relocated states
Mhm.
for the whole purpose. And I read your biography, and you said,
Mhm.
hey, that was that was the best part of you, and you had to be next to the best part of you. You had to move to be
Absolutely.
closer. Yeah.
Absolutely. So now let's touch on that, right? I have the tendency to look in the mirror with situations when I have to deal with them, right? I'm not going to put it on her, just because she moved and she did everything that she was trying to do to sever that bond and sever that access for my son to have access to me. I will look in the mirror and look solely on me and say, what does accountability look like for that young man?
Wow.
What do I have to do to make sure that the things that she's trying to do is irrelevant? Right. So if I go down to the courthouse and take care of my business, what she's talking about is irrelevant because we have this parenting plan and we have the court's order. Now, if she doesn't follow that order, then I'm going to take it back to the courthouse and go to the judge and hold the judge accountable with the same documentation that he filled out for us.
Okay.
You
Okay.
understand? So I don't put it on women when it is an accountability issue. You, man, have to go down to the court or you have to do whatever you have to do to make sure that you take care of your business. What does accountability look like for you?
Got you.
And then once you be accountable, then you can hold everybody else accountable.
Got you.
So
Yeah.
she can do whatever she wants to do. If I'm not being accountable as a father, then I'm proving her right.
Yeah. That's true.
But if
And
I,
that's all,
yeah, go
and
ahead.
that's all a woman should want, though.
That's it.
Is a partner in parenting,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, if we didn't make it in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
the responsibility is still to rear and raise a young, productive citizen who can contribute to society one day.
Mm-hmm.
And if he sees mom and daddy being toxic fighting over this child support, fighting over all these other things, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I went through a divorce
Mm-hmm.
about 3-4 years ago, and my ex, she put me on child support, and I think
Mm-hmm.
she panicked. I think she really panicked. You know what I'm saying? I think she was,
Mm-hmm.
was afraid, that she was gonna have to do this by herself. We've been married for almost 17, 18 years. And so she
Mm-hmm.
didn't know if she was worried about whether or not I was gonna take care of my responsibility. So, we went to court. Bro, I ain't read it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, whatever you need, I'll give it to you. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're my children. I raised them. I appreciate you for letting me stay in the house until my son was out of high school.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. So I would have paid whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
since she let the mediator come up with whatever the mediation was, now first she was like, he's not paying anything. Well, I pulled out a whole bunch of cash apps and a whole bunch of,
Mm-hmm. Got the
you
receipt.
talked about documents. I pulled out cash
Mm-hmm.
apps. I pulled out Google Pays, and then the media was like, well, here's 15 or 12, 13,000 worth of receipts right here. So he must be doing something,
Mm-hmm.
and then and so she didn't get anything more, you know what I'm saying, beyond that. But at the end of the day, I knew they were my children.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they were my responsibility. They called me daddy. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? They called me dad. So I would have done, I mean, I'm be honest with you, Doc. There were times I would pay their child support before I paid my rent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to court every month because I'm late on my rent trying to pay their child support. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So the narrative that black men don't take care of their children,
False.
that's a myth.
That's a
That's
myth.
false. That's
Absolutely right.
100% false. And those that are just coming into the chat, right, coming into the show right now, we have Mr. Greg Hill, CEO of Our Children Have Rights. He's telling his story about how when he conceived a child with a young lady. He's originally from Florida, was living in New Jersey, conceived
Mm-hmm.
a child. Out of the blue, she ups and moves the child back to Florida. He leaves his house in New Jersey and moves back to Florida. Thankfully, he had a job where he could work from home, but he
Mm-hmm.
moved back to Florida so he could be close to his children. When he gets there, she puts him on child support. All the child support agents is worried about his money. They ain't worried about the relationship. They automatically put him almost on $1,100-$1,200 worth of child support. He goes through, debunk, and breaks down the whole child support order. She's paying her grandmama $300 a month and
1,200.
calling her a nanny.
1,200. Don't show it the money. 1,200.
$1,200 a month, calling and paying it to her grandmama, calling her the nanny. Saying she's paying $800 a month in insurance. Judge looks at it, says, "Well, first of all, yep." And I'm just gonna throw this out there, Greg Hill. Your presence was a present. See, so many times we don't show up, and we let them write our story. And and then, like you said, you signed the first thing, you didn't even know what you were signing. And did you just say that?
Yep.
But like you said, we got to learn how to read the documentation. Got to read the documents.
Educate yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Keep going. Tell your story. Keep going, brother.
Yeah. So now we've gotten through that part, and I've written the book. And now, I'm getting the book out to the masses now, because I've gotten it down now. I've understood what is needed to kind of combat that narrative of, deadbeats, right? So now I'm getting that process out. I'm getting that book out, and it becomes a hit.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
all over. I've done speaking engagements in Australia on Zooms. I've spoken the UK, Italy, Brazil, Canada, all over the US. And we've been able to make a lot of impact in a lot of children's lives because we've been able to help these children gain access to both parents equally. And it goes back to the statistics, right? If you go and look at the stats, children, when they have both parents or really the fathers in their lives, they have less reading issues. They have less behavioral issues. They graduate high school at a higher rate, or they go to college at a higher rate. They have better jobs at a higher rate. All these statistics show that when you have the father, and both parents working together in this children's life, they are more successful.
Yes, sir.
And so that is really the narrative that we are pushing now is how do we protect these children's rights to have access to both parents and get the lesson that they need from both parents so they can be, as the statistics show, better in life. They have a better outcome in life. And so that's really what we're trying to do here at Our Children Have Rights, and it comes a lot from the lived experiences that I have, man. I've been through some of everything, all the restraining orders and, all the accusations. I've gone through all of those things. And I'm here today to tell, a lot of these parents, men or women, make sure that you just stick to the process, stick to the plan, stick to, your information and the guidance that you already know. Because if you stick to that, then, the other side just looks crazy when they come in wanting to fight about things that may not be true or things that aren't relevant to the case.
Absolutely. And tell us the name of your book.
Our Children Have Rights. You
That's
go
the
on
name of the
Amazon.
book. Okay.
Yeah, go on Amazon and type in Our Children Have Rights, and you will find the book there. And it's been selling all over the place.
How many have you sold? You sold quite a few copies.
I've sold some decent amount of copies. I've sold. I think the first month I sold over 100 books. So a few months, for about 6 or 7 months, it was going about 100 books a clip.
So I know you ain't doing like the other dude I brought on here. He wanted me to promote his book, and I found like 7 typos in the first 2 chapters. I'm joking. I'm being funny.
I mean, even if there are, go check it out. I wrote it and published it. I had edited and everything myself. So even if you find a typo, let me know and I'll go in there and change it.
No, don't say. Don't say. It's too many. I got too many written out there like that. You already got too many written. So all right. So so listen, you all. He has the book. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's only $12.99 on Amazon. Brothers, go and grab. Let me put a picture of it right quick up so they can see it. Go and check out that book because you do need to know your rights. And he's telling us that there that's it. There are certain factors that you really need to pay attention to. Our Children Have Rights, Child Custody for Unwed Fathers, the paper book written by Mr. Greg Hill, author and illustrator Mr. Carlos Watkins. So go out and check it. It looks like an easy read, but it does have very, very good information that will help us as we try to. And I want to piggyback on something else you just said. You said that every statistical category shows that our children perform better when our black men. My son. One day, my ex-wife was asking a question about why he thought he was doing so well and why he didn't think he got into certain behaviors like some of his other people that he knows does. And he said, "Dad, turn around." He patted me on my back. You know what I'm saying? And now I look crazy when I wouldn't let certain people have conversations with him. I'm like, no, get away from him. Don't. I don't need you telling him nothing because we're territorial. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That's like when we teach our little boys to use the bathroom, right? We teach them to stand up in front of the toilet, but we don't just teach them to pee, but we teach them to aim for the spot, right? Because it's a strategy in this thing.
Yes, sir.
And as black men, there's strategies. I can remember my son being on the baseball field, and I could just go. I could say Earl. His name ain't Earl. His name was Trey. But when I say Earl, he knew I was talking about him. And he'll shoot me the deuces right quick. Let me know that that he's thinking about. And so we had code languages and certain things that fathers have with their children, right? And I commend you, bro. And I really wish I would have been there if I had known you during that 3-month period, because I can relate. And I want you to talk about that for a minute for our listeners. Let's talk about what that 3 months look, because you said you were doing a bottle of liquor. I hope it was it cheap liquor?
It was Southern Comfort.
So yeah, it was cheap liquor. Look, if you're doing a
hey, look, I'm paying $1,141 child support. I can't afford nothing.
You can't afford nothing else. Ain't no white Hennessy or none of that going on. So you got to get the best brown you can.
The best liquor I can. The best $20 liquor I can.
But real talk, some people do not understand.
Yeah.
Because as black men, right, we want to live a certain way. We want to be in control. Because my dad told me a man is a black man. A man is one who's in control at all times, right? But then when certain things seem to be taken out of our control, we feel helpless.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So because you go to the court system, you got to look at these folk in these black robes and these people telling you what to do in your life. And you've already made this transition from 1,300 miles from up top way down to Florida. You know what you're trying to do. But every time you try to stand up, it's like pouring water on a drowning man, right? They're cutting off your legs before you even have a chance to stand up. And it will lead you to a state of depression. I don't care what nobody says. We all have our juniper tree moments, man.
Absolutely right.
After my divorce, mine was horrible. Now, I didn't turn to alcohol, thank God, but I did what I did. You know what I'm saying? And y'all can speculate, wonder, whatever. I don't care. But I went through my moment of darkness. And I'm going to tell you like this, and you might be able to relate. But there was a moment for me that silence sounded like noise. Yeah. I mean, silence sounded like noise, man. Yeah. Because I'm at home. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. And I was there too. But that's where the bottle of liquor came in at, because it was so loud in here. I had to drink just to be able to sleep.
Wow.
And so, and let's talk about that. Let's not glaze over that, right? Let's talk about this mental health. That we really have to tap into. I really encourage men to get your counsel. I call it the counsel. And this is a group of men that can hold you accountable. And who, when you go through things, they may have gone through some things similar, or they may be, a little older than you, and they can tell you how to navigate some things and deal with some things. So you need that counsel in your life. It doesn't matter if it's business. It doesn't matter if it's just going outside and play a little ball. You need that counsel in your life, so you have some people to bounce things off of, so you're not holding these things in and compartmentalizing these things, and you're not letting these things out. You're not, dealing with these things on a mental level. But let's get into that mental health, right? So yeah, I went to a dark place. And I didn't talk to anybody for a good 3 months.
Wow.
Just here, right? And when that light bulb goes off, you're in fight or flight mode.
Jeez.
And then that light bulb has to go off sometime. And so it has to be a transition from somewhere. You're in that dark space, and you're in here thinking about it, and things get really loud, but nobody's talking,
Yeah.
and you just start to talk to yourself. Which again, that's when I started writing the book. Um,
So you started writing the book while you were in the dark place.
I started writing because that was my place, kind of to get away. I'm in here drinking and just sitting here by myself, and I just started writing.
Okay.
And then after I went through the process, then I started to address the things that I wrote about.
Okay. That
And
makes sense.
so, and so, you're in that dark space, and then you begin to read, and then you start to understand. So, a lot of people go through and go into that dark space because they don't understand. You're in fight or flight, and you don't have any other way to fight to get out of it.
Wow.
Right. And so once you're going through that, then you start to the light bulb, so you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you start to climb your way out of that dark space. Well, that light was reading all the information for me, really getting to that information, and then changing my mindset. So it was during that time where I changed my mindset to say, hey, this is not this is not about what she is doing to me. This is about that baby. That young man is going to need to have access to us both. So it has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. And what does he need from us both? And so then I started reading the information different. What is the state requiring? And then what is he going to need from us both? So addressing all of that information had nothing to do with me and everything to do with him.
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Taking that stance, what was the effect that it had on her?
I'm not quite sure
Okay.
of the effect that it had on her. I'm pretty sure she may be a little upset about it. But when we get to the point to where it is him over everything, I can't really worry about the effect of what it's going to be on her because he's more important.
I got you. But the reason I asked that question, because I mean, customarily, women love to see men loving their children.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've heard so many women say that that's one of the most attractive things that they can ever see is how a man loves his children, right? And
Hmm.
seeing the love that you had for your child, and seeing that you were willing to move that far and that you were willing to learn all of these things, and that I mean, even true enough, she wanted the $1,100, but now she got somebody who's willing to go half. You know what I'm saying? And he's paying these bills, and he's doing all these other things. She never softened up on that at all.
Well, so we'll get into that later, but the avenue or the lane for me to be a good father and have that good relationship with her never presented itself.
Wow.
And after going through and dealing with all the things that happened in that relationship, in that process,
Hmm.
there's no way for me to try to open that lane again and give her that opportunity.
Wow.
You understand? So now everything is about that young man. Everything is about that baby. Everything is about that boy. So it is all about him having access to his dad. That is
Got
the only thing that I'm concerned about at this point.
So you can care less about co-parenting.
I can care less. Well, I still co-parent
Get
to
you.
an extent. We can get into co-parenting. We can go there. Co-parenting a lot of times needs some assistance.
Okay.
Um, when that bitterness is there and people can't have conversations to communicate to really be on the same page for the child, you're gonna need some help. You're gonna need some assistance. And so what we chose to do, well, I chose to do was make sure that we had a parenting app that we could communicate through.
Okay. Did you create this app? Or was it
No,
already
this
out?
app
Oh,
this app is called Talking Parents, or you can go and get one called Our Family Wizard. Write that down, man. Ourfamilywizard.com or the talkingparents.com. And I'll tell you why that we resorted to that. So in when it's really toxic, when it's a really toxic relationship with that child, when the parents are really toxic, documentation is everything. Documentation will show the proof of what is really transpiring instead of the lies that people may have when they go into a courtroom. So if you go into the courtroom with the paperwork, it is different when a judge can read it and it's time stamped, and all the information is there.
Gotcha.
So understand, what you're going into when you go into the courtroom. They're not going to listen to a man most of the time. But when you have that documentation, now you can present that to the court. And now the courts have to read it and it's time stamped. Now it's proof of what's going
That's
on.
good. All right. That's good stuff. And you see, I put fellas, I put that on the screen. Document all things, print all text messages, all those kinds of things. Have access to the copies of the birth certificates, medical records, Social
Documentation.
Security. Document everything.
Everything.
But now I asked you a question a minute ago, and I think Theodore might have caught the spirit of what I was saying, and so he wanted to ask you a question, and I want you to jump on this. He said, "Does Greg think it's beneficial for his son to see a healthy relationship between his parents?"
Yes, it is
Okay.
very beneficial.
Okay.
But in the event that that can't happen, it is highly important that the child also sees both parents, in a healthy manner also.
Yeah.
So if those two parents can't come together and have a healthy relationship, then they need to stay apart. They should stay apart, and the child see both parents healthy.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I mean?
got.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way.
I get, and that's that. And then the thing though with that, and like I said, I'm feeling that question is if Mama's still bitter, is Mama spreading that bitterness on the son when you're not around? You know what I'm saying?
Of
And
course
so
she
now,
is. I would
do
say she
you do you
is.
have do you have to reprove yourself every time you see your child? You know what I'm saying? Because the
Mhm.
child, how old is your son now?
He's 4 now.
Okay, so at a certain point, he's gonna start to understand and learn for himself, right?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So
Correct.
when he sees it through his own lenses, and so
Mhm.
that's why, I one day out the blue, I just called Theodore. I sent Theodore the link if he wanted to come on tonight with us.
Mhm.
But one day I just saw me. I mean, I watched Theodore. I tell the joke about when he came to trade in his car.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna tell his business. We know what we talking about. But when he came to trade in, uh, but I watched him evolve. I
Mhm.
watched him evolve as a man. I watched him evolve as a husband. I watched him evolve as a father. I remember one time he came to my dealership to I could tell he had a bullet hole in his car when he first came up to trade his car. I'm
Don't
like,
don't
this
do my
nigga.
guy like that. Don't
Yeah.
do it like that.
He said I could tell. He just told me that. So he told me I could tell. But anyway, but that wasn't that dude though. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
I remember when he came up, his son, I ain't gonna say his son's name, but he came up to the dealership one time, and I let him use my tablet to watch Netflix.
Mhm.
He hurry up and put kid friendly on there, made his own profile. You know what I'm saying? Even when I get on my Netflix now, I still see that child's profile. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
he wanted to control his environment. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
There is no way that that Theodore would be out of his son's life if him and
Right.
his wife were to get a divorce. Now I could never see that happening, but
Right.
there's no way he would do it. And I sense the same thing with you.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I feel him on that aspect of a child needing, because my ex and I, we were married for 20 years total. But I
Mhm.
promise you, our kids might have saw us argue twice.
Right.
We didn't expose them to anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so if you're raising a child and even you got this child support issue and there's bitterness there, then I'm with Theodore. I think there needs to be at a certain point where he's able to see y'all coexisting cordially, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And if she ever opened the door, or if
I
that
get it.
lane, if that
Only
lane
you can only control what you
I
can
only
control.
control what I
You
control,
can, yeah,
correct.
yeah,
And if that
yeah.
lane ever opened itself, I definitely invite it. But at this point in time, the lane just hasn't opened itself. So I can only do what I need to do for that young man and make sure that, he gets those lessons from me. that he is going to need. Now, if he has the opportunity to get the lessons from us both at the same time while we're together in the future, I'm open for it.
Well, let me just say this: you're a hell of a dude, because it's so many dudes, so many men that because they don't have a good relationship with the woman, they'll just walk out of the children's life and accept what child support is offering, end up in jail, end up $50,000-$60,000 deep, all that kind of credit messed up,
Just
all
tap
those
into
things.
that. Just
Yeah,
tap into that.
yeah,
Now, why do
yeah,
they do that?
yeah, yeah,
Why do they do that? And it is those men who I really want to reach out to as well, right?
yeah,
Those men are the men who don't know how to be accountable for their children.
yeah.
Those
That
men
makes
will
sense.
walk away based on what they've been told and not what they've read and educated themselves on, right? They don't understand the process. They don't know the process. So instead of them going to read up on the process and getting the information that they need and going through this process and making sure they protect their children's right to have access to them, they give up and walk away.
Wow, that's
And
good
those
stuff.
are the men who we want to educate and let them know, hey, brother, you don't have to do that. There are other options. Because there's never really been a program that will help men make sure that they are accountable for children.
No, it's not. It's,
There's
I
not.
mean, there. I mean, even the child support, like in Georgia, I know they have the fatherhood program where they, try to help
Hmm.
them get jobs, but it ain't really for the not like it ain't really like no
Hmm.
strong program like that. I mean,
Right.
I saw it with my own eyes. So,
Hmm.
now what you're proposing, and what makes it so wonderful is that its foundation uh was rooted in your passion. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And
Yes.
not only was it rooted in your passion, it was rooted in desperation. And I and
Hmm.
I and, I- and I heard J. Vernon McGee once say that desperation is oftentimes a prelude to grace.
Yes.
So you were able to find grace because you were desperate enough to want to be in your child's life, and you wasn't going to take no for an answer. So
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
I feel that. So listen, we got about 9 more minutes left on this segment, and I want them first of all to go to your website, ourchildrenhaverights.org.
Hmm.
I also want them to get your books. I have Our Children Have Rights. So let's go to Amazon and
Hmm.
get that. In fact, what I'm doing right now is I am putting the link in the chat, and hopefully, please, oh ma'am or sir, you can go there and get the link. But what I want to do on the way out is I want you to talk about your 12-step playbook.
Hmm. Hmm.
I want you
Pull
to
it up.
talk about your 12-step playbook.
Let it pull it up. And
And
it's really centered around those three things that I told you. But go ahead and
okay,
pull up that playbook if you can.
okay,
If you have it, let's make sure that
let
we
me
show them these steps.
let
And
me go to let me go to step one.
and remember, we do our services for free. So if you come to us, you come to Our Children Have Rights, and you submit the questionnaire, you can get directly to me, and I will help you through your process for free. We don't charge anything with our nonprofit organization. We don't charge at all.
All right, there's step one.
All right, so step one. So of course, you want to, try to work with the other parent. All right. If you can avoid at all costs, stay away from the courts. The courts only want to create turmoil and draw the wedge between you two so they can actually get paid for it. And let's think
Mm,
about that. Now let's say, you two aren't seeing eye to eye. The first thing you do is both go get lawyers. Now you got to pay the retainer fee. So now that you
yeah.
pay the retainer fee, then you got to wait 2 months to get a court date. And now you got to go ahead and pay and figure out, somebody's going to have to pay for the extra court date. So
Mm,
all these things is just a money grab for the courts most of the time, right? So if you can be amicable, you want to work with that other parent when you both understand that the child needs you both. So now if you can't be amicable, you want to go ahead and make sure you have that documentation that we spoke about previously. You want to have that. You want to establish that paternity, and you could do it again. You could do it three ways, right? One of three ways: marriage, signing the VDOP or the AOP. Make sure you're educated on the VDOP or AOP. Make sure that it's your baby. If you don't think it's your baby, go ahead and get the paternity test and establish through the court. Don't go down to the child support office. Child support office will only take your money. They do not establish custody. They do not account all the other details into the child support calculation. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Hold on, you on mute, brother. And so this slide, right, with number 2, make sure you read up on the details. You have to read, brothers. If you go in uneducated, then you can't hold anybody else accountable. Learn the laws in your state. Be able to identify the key things that you will need so they can't use those key things as restrictions or detriments to your children.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have one of these 3 things, then they will say, well, hey, this is a detriment to that child. And all this goes into the overnights, into the child support calculator, goes into the insurance, goes into the distance, all the calculations. It will go all into that information that you're going to read and understand what the actual state is saying. Understand the child support calculator. Understand what they're going to use as a detriment to your child. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay.
Number 3, document, 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 document. We can't express this enough. Because remember, the other side is going to try to destroy your character. This is lawyer 101.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to try to break you down. They're going to try to say you're a deadbeat. They're going to try to say, hey, you haven't been there for the children. But document everything that you are doing. If you are mom of the year, if you are dad of the year, document those things. So when you go into the courtroom, you don't have to say a word. You just show your documentation. No one's going to hear and listen to what you say anyway. But if your documentation says it and it's timestamped and it's in a court-approved app, then the courts will actually adhere and listen to those documents. Document, 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 document. Can't be stressed enough when it comes to telling your side of the story when you go into a courtroom. Next slide.
All right.
Lawyer consultation. Now, let's say, you come to, organization, you come through, you're educated on the process, your mind is right, your documentation is correct. Let's say now you want to go to a lawyer because you don't think you're articulate enough or you can't get your point across. Well, there's things that you want to make sure that you listen to or you follow when you find this lawyer. Get a lawyer that is close to the courthouse or the jurisdiction where that child is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Then get a lawyer that that will work for you.
Okay.
Because remember, the lawyer is employed by you. You're paying the lawyer. So you want to get that lawyer who's actually going to help you. And then the last part on this slide right here is, if the lawyer is not helping you with your education, it's not helping you understand what's going on, it's probably not for you. You want to get that lawyer who's going to prepare you for the actual process.
Got you.
If they're not telling you some of the things that I'm telling you right now, then they're probably not for you. But that lawyer is not their job, but a good lawyer will help prep you through some of the things that you're about to face.
Got you.
Okay, go on to the next slide here.
All right.
Okay, in a lot of places, you can file pro se, and you can use what is called they have where you can upload it through the courts yourself, self-help website where you can go in and file these things yourself on your own behalf. If your court has that, then you can file as many times as you want. Once that case is open, in most courthouses, you can file as many times as you want, so it doesn't cost you every single time you're filing, right? And then you want to understand how to file these documents also. So you have to do your homework and you have to read this information. You can do a lot of these things yourself without being charged all this extra amount of money.
Gotcha.
But if you don't know how, come down to Children and Rights, I'll tell you and show you how to actually file some of these things yourself. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay.
This is a big deal right here. We're getting back to that child support calculator. Put that child on your insurance. There's a lot of things that it shows. Fiduciary financial responsibility. Your willingness to pay for this child. Nobody had to ask you to put that baby on your insurance. You already did it voluntarily. So that means you are willing to pay for this child. It shows that you're trying to be accountable for this child. These things in front of a judge look as if you are already being proactive instead of reactive when you go into the courtroom.
That's important.
That's a big deal. You look as if you are being the parent of the year. That
Yeah,
perception is a big deal. Okay,
that's
put
good.
that baby on your insurance. Go ahead and go to the next.
Yes, sir.
Oh, now that you are in a courtroom and you have some of these things already taken care of, you want to understand what the parenting plan is going to look like for that child. Not for you, not for the other parent, but for the best interest of the child. What does the parenting plan look like? Where's the child going to go to school? How many overnights is it? Who's going to make the decisions? How the extracurricular activity is going to look? Taxes. Who's going to claim the child on your taxes every year?
Hmm.
All these things are important when you're looking at that child's actual parenting plan. Do not skip any steps when you're doing that parenting plan, because that parenting plan is going to be carried for that child until that child is 18.
Okay.
So you want to get as many of these things right the first time. So look over that parenting plan. If you don't know what a parenting plan looks like, there's websites that go for you to exchange. There's one called Exchange Calculator, I think. But just find me. I'll give you that link too. But there's a online version of what a child parenting plan looks like. You can go there and adjust and manipulate some plans for the best interest of the child for both parents. But you
Okay.
want to make sure you go through that plan. Go to the next one. I know you got. We ain't gonna do through them all.
Oh no, we can do them all. Hey, it's on my time. We good.
Okay,
We
cool.
are good. No, let's get through these 12
So,
steps. We ain't got about
so
10 more minutes.
preparing for mediation, right?
Uh-huh.
Understanding what the process looks like and how it's supposed to be. And if you have an understanding of what's going on, and you have these other things that we spoke about previously in mind, you can go into the actual mediation prepared to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go in and be dictated to because you don't understand the process.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? Have your parenting plan together. Make sure you and your lawyer speak over the plan, and and you understand some of the questions that you may have to go into. And then you don't want to go in being in fight or flight mode.
Okay.
You want to have all these things in mind before you go in. Like I said here, be prepared. Be ready to negotiate, consult with your team, stay calm, be firm but reasonable when you go into a mediation. Right? Go on to the
Yes.
next panel.
All right.
This one right here
It's
gets a
huge.
lot of people. You have to remain calm. Right? And so I like to tell my parents, the other party is irrelevant at this point.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what they're going to say. What you need to do is have your documentation in place, and you need to understand the process. Because a lot of times, if you have a good lawyer, they're going to object what the other side is saying anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All those allegations and all those negative things, what they're going to say, all the manipulation, all those other tactics and things like that. All of those things are irrelevant. That has nothing to do with that child's access to you. So it is important that you remain calm, stick
Okay.
to your process, stick to your information, and make sure you protect that child's right to have access to you. Anything outside of that is irrelevant.
That's good. That's a good point.
Go to the next one. What we have here. You want to make sure that you establish rights through the court. The court order does not. I'm going to repeat that. The court order, the child support order, the child support does not establish paternity. The child support does not add in all the calculations and things that you would need that may go into the actual court calculations. Do not go to the child support office. You want to go to the courts. Child support office only if a fiduciary responsibility. They do not establish custody. They do not establish a parenting plan.
I did not think of that. Okay.
They do not.
Okay.
Because remember, child support and custody are two different things.
Yeah. I mean, and I never thought about it like that, but but you know what? Like when we went when we did our parenting plan for the divorce,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't do anything with child support court
Right.
at all. You know what I mean? I paid it.
And let me tell you why, because you were married.
Okay.
So now that you're married, it is already assumed, it's already documented that you have 50-50 rights for these children.
Okay. That's
So
good.
now if you go through the child support agency, you're trying to establish that somebody has to have a fiduciary responsibility to his children.
Okay.
But you are already married, so there's already an established point to say, hey, you're fiduciary responsible. You have a fiduciary responsibility. So that's why you don't go to the child support agency, because you were married. Remember, there's 3 ways to establish that paternity.
Marriage.
One is if you're married. So if you were married, you're already excluded from the others.
Then sign the VDOP as the other one.
The VDOP, which you can do that at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to be educated on it if you want to do that, because you don't want to be stuck with the child, or you don't want to be stuck in established paternity and that child is not yours. So if you have any question on that, don't sign the VDOP. Go ahead and establish your paternity through the courts.
And what was the third one?
Establishing paternity through the courts.
Okay. Marriage, VDOP, and establishing paternity through the court.
Yes.
Okay.
Establishing that parenting.
Brothers, hey, listen, brothers, sisters, whoever y'all are listening to this is excellent information. You can go to a conference all day long and not get this kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all, I'm expecting, we might not have had a lot of people on this live show, but I'm expecting this one to get a lot of traction and replay, because it's a lot of information. Let's go to establishing through the court. Let's go to the next one.
Next one. So
Child
now, understand what the child support calculations will try to extract from what is going on from both parents, right? The child support calculator, you have to look at it for your state. Every state has one. Don't let them tell you they don't. Every state has a child support calculator. And what they will do is they will put in key indicators to try to come out with this arbitrary number of what the child support should be. And if you look at that actual documentation, or you look at that calculator, 10 times out of 10 is going to have both parents' income at the top. It's going to calculate the amount of overnights, because remember, overnights are a direct correlation to child support.
Okay.
The more overnights you have, the less child support you pay.
Yeah.
So this goes into that accountability. The more that child is with you, the less child support you pay. And it makes sense. But the overnights are very key. And then you want to have that child on your insurance, because the parent who doesn't have the child on the insurance is going to have to compensate the other parent for the insurance.
Okay.
So you want to have that child on your insurance.
So you're paying $800, compensating $800 a month.
Yes.
Wow.
And then the child care, right? Paying $1,200 in child care.
To the granny. Granny nanny.
Allegedly paying child $1,200. Where's the receipt? Where's the information on that?
To the granny nanny.
Granny nanny was getting $1,200 according to her.
Wow.
But now, what she didn't tell him, that the granny was living with her and she wasn't paying nothing. But that ain't the point.
I understand.
You understand? So, but you have to understand what the child support calculator looks like in your state.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. Going to the next one.
All righty.
Mm-hmm. Now, this one is an additional one. This one is something that I had to deal with. And it's a little bit extracurricular, but there's ways that you can pay child support without going to the child support agency and not having the paternity established yet. If you want to go ahead and try to pay those payments to, if your court has it, a child support depository. So now, once you go through your actual process and then you have child support to pay, you've already had somebody collecting that child support, and they can say, well, hey, he's been accountable. He's already been paying this.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But that's if they have it at the courthouse that has the jurisdiction over your child.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Look at the next one.
Gotcha. Hey, well, guys, this has been let me take this off right quick. This has been a 12-step playbook by Mr. Greg Hill. One has been tested, tried, and has proven, to be successful in fighting for his child's rights. He has a 4-year-old son whom he loves dearly, who means the world to him, who changed his world. All of us talk about our children change our world, but he has
Absolutely.
literally changed his world, changed his domicile, helped him, went through depression, found his way out, had his epiphany, and worked his way out of his depression. And when he came out with light, and he's able to shine that light so brightly now that he's able to direct, and that's the purpose of light, to direct people out of darkness and get them into the right place. And he has been successful in doing that. And God has given him the heart. God has given him the heart of several sponsors that help him do carry on his mission, and that's major, man. I'm gonna show y'all some of the stuff he's doing here, and we're about to get out of here for real talk. But I just want y'all to see this. Look at some of the sponsors he has. Look at that: Father's Rights, Triumph, Family Reunion, Co-Parenting Made Easy, McLaughlin Law. I mean, Baby Out of Wedlock, Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, Florida Health, the Children's Movement, Florida Coalition for Children, Smart Counseling. These are all people who have agreed to be sponsors in his organization. So that means they believe in him, and he's already shared that he has spoken in Australia and places like that. So let's take advantage of this information. Let's share this information. Mr. Hill, I appreciate you for coming on. Appreciate you. Theodore, I appreciate you. Theodore shot some stuff out there, but and I appreciate the fact that you said you tried to be amicable with your child's mother. And I pray that y'all even become more amicable for the sake of the child, because 4 years old y'all got a long way to go.
Yes.
With the relate to raising that child. So I pray that y'all are able to work that out so that y'all can be more. So he can see, because he's gonna need to see healthy parental relationships. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure once you, if you are not already in a relationship or whatever, I'm sure he sees it around that. So that's your business. Y'all work that out later on. But I'm jealous because I know you'll probably be on the beach tomorrow, and I'll be up here, and I'll be at work dodging the rain. So that first day Theodore and I called you, man, you were on the beach, and I'm jealous. I'm being honest with you. I'm jealous.
Beach, yeah.
Yes, I'm a Cancer, so I love water. So
hey, man, when's your birthday?
July the 6th.
Hey, mine's July 11th.
My daughter's is July 12th, and my son is July 18th. So we all got along. We just go to our room. We just go to our room and meet up for dinner. Meet at the dinner table a little bit later on. So
right.
It's all good. But now we're gonna wind this conversation down, man. This has been a very informative situation, and as this show grows, I'm gonna bring you back. Because I want some more people to come on and be able to hear this live. So as this show grows, this was our first one, and we've had a few people on tonight, and they stopped by, and I appreciate everybody for listening. And I'll have this on Spotify, and I'll have this on Apple Podcasts within the next couple of days.
Okay, perfect.
And I'll send you the link so you can do whatever you need to do with that. And it is being pre-recorded on YouTube right now, so you can automatically go to YouTube and share it yourself as well. So. And whatever you need from me, let me know, and I'll do my part. And I can't wait to meet you in person.
Absolutely.
But it's been real, man. And I think we've helped some brothers.
Yeah.
And I think we can help a lot more.
Yeah.
So I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bring you back here, number one. But I'm also gonna probably introduce you to my Monday night crowd too.
Okay. Let me know.
And I'll introduce you to my Monday night crowd and let you come in, and we can find a way to seamlessly bring you in there as well.
I'm good. Yep.
You good with that?
Yep.
You good with that?
Plug me in.
Cool.
And then
plug in.
Yep. And then I guess on a final note, man, listen, this is all about accountability, right? Don't let anybody tell you what you can do with your children and what you can't do with your children. Be accountable. Go ahead and do the necessary stuff that you need as a parent to protect that child's right to have access to you, and both parents equally, because that child is going to need you both. And that is the entire mission of our children's life. Have rights to protect the children's right to that equally by providing these co-parenting needs. Hopefully, we help a lot of men and women. If anybody needs me, you can reach out to OCHR.org or ourchildrenhaverights.org, and I'm here.
And I appreciate that, and I believe that. So listen, y'all, first episode of Tuesday F.L.O.W. I think it went really well. I'm looking forward to doing it again next week. We got Bishop Charles E. Williams and Dr. A.T. Jordan out of Nash, Texas, two very powerful preachers that are going to be on with me, and we're going to go back down memory lane, and I'm looking forward to that. And we still got our Monday night show. We're going to do open mic night again Monday night. Had a real good show with my Monday night live crew. And I appreciate y'all. So listen, I'm out of here. I've enjoyed this. It's been real. It's been real. But you know, I tell y'all the same thing every time we go. The world is changing. My question for you is, why do you remain the same? Y'all have a good night, and we'll catch you on next go around. Appreciate you, Greg.